The Singa. Sang Nila Utama, an imaginative, adventurous king, was restless by nature and wanted to travel to faraway places. He loved hunting wild animals, so when he heard that there were stags in the jungles of Tanjong Bentam which were not easy to hunt, he was excited and took with him a great fleet of ships to Tanjong Bentam. When the king arrived upon the island, he and his subjects had a hunting expedition that lasted several hours, slaying many wild and savage beasts, but no stags. This disappointed the king, for he had a sense of unfulfillment in his heart. Suddenly, a large stag darted out of the bush in front of Sang Nila Utama, giving the king a shock. But the king drew his silver dagger and hurled it at the stag, only grazing the animal. The stag began to run and the king pursued it. In those days, it was either your feet or nothing. The stag ran through the jungle and darted up a knoll. The king followed the stag up the hill, but upon reaching the summit, the stag was nowhere to be seen. There was a large rock, so the king climbed it and looked the land and sea spread out around him. In the distance, he saw a stretch of white sand and island. Sang Nila Utama was fascinated by the sight of the island. He turned to one of his subjects who had followed him. "What is the name of that island?" The subject looked into the distance and smiled. "That is Temasek, your highness." "Then we are going there." The king ordered his fleet to set sail and then they began on their journey towards the island. Suddenly, the once clear blue skies were covered with black clouds. Heavy rain poured from them and strong bursts of wind threatened to tear the ships apart. The ship carrying Sang Nila Utama was in the very eye of the storm. The crew lowered the sails, started to bail the water from the ship and get most of the cargo for jettisoning. However, an idea came to the king's head. He remembered a story his grandfather told him of how one of his ancestors became the Sea King and that his crown was the only thing which belonged to his ancestor. He removed his crown immediately and threw it into the sea. All at once, the storm broke. As suddenly as it started, the skies began to clear and the crew gave a shout of joy and set sails once more to the island of Temasek. When the king stepped upon the island, a creature stepped out of the nowhere, and the king and his men were awestruck by the magnificent creature. It was large and moved with grace, had a black head covered in foreign wings, a whitish neck, and a red body. When the king drew his bow and arrow, the beast started back at him with golden eyes and let out a deafening roar before leaping into the jungle. "What sort of animal was that?" the king asked. A wise old man stepped forth. "I have seen animals in portraits from the far west. Perhaps this is a singa, but I wonder how it got all the way here. This must be great place if it breeds such a beautiful animal. Let us live here on the island of the Singapura." Yan lang. Ikaw na.
Ang dami.
Ang dami.
The Singasan Nila Utama, an imaginative adventure king, was restless by nature and wanted to rip to from away place. We love hunting with animals, so when he heard that there were stand in the jungle of Tanjong Bentang, which were not else to hunt. He was excited and took he a great deal of ship to Tanjong Bentang. With the king arrived upon the island, he and his subjects Jack had a hunting expedition that lasted several hours. My will and savage best, but no state is disappointed. The king from he had a scent of fulfillment in his heart. Suddenly a large stag darted out of the bush in front of Sanila Utama, giving the king a show, but the king derived his silver dagger and hurled it at the stag only. Cracked the animal, the stag began to run, and the king ran in those days. It was unusual feel it all or nothing. The stag got around the jungle of Garden up a con the king. Following the stag up the river upon reaching the swimming the stag was here to be sentenced was alert so the king best it and looking the land and see only around him in the distances he saw a state of white sand, an island. Sanila Utang was enchanted by the sea of the island. He turned to one of his subjects, how and follow him. What is the name of the island? The subject looking into the distance and exclaimed, that is Temasek, side. Then he are look there. The king addressed his feet to see, and they become under Jana to get the island. Suddenly the ocean blue sky were covered with black clouds. Rain poured from the pot of it, started of two there the slip apart the sea. Kahit Sanila Utama was in the very eye of the storm. The earth looked at the stand to fill the water from the ship and get most of the cargo from Jatisoni. However, an idea came to the king. He remembered a story his great father told him of how one of his ancestors became The Sea King and his court was the only thing which became to his ancestor. He remember his proximate jutile there into the sea. All at ocean the story broke suddenly and he struggled and it began to slip and scream, give a show of joy and sea, ocean, more the island of Temasi with the king step upon an island, a great step out of frontier, and the king and his men were greatly struggled by the many feet. Culture in was longer and moved with great have a black head, covered in a mane of snow and red body. When the king drive his round around the best drag block and at him golden eyes and left only a definitely ground become living into the jungle. What sort of animal was the king asking? A which old man step up. I have seen animals imported from the frontier. This is the Singapore water. How it go all the way here. This be a great place in where such a beautiful animal live here on the island Singapore.